All right, what's good, YouTube? This is Boxingwave. It's been a really busy day of making content, but it's been a lot of news that's just been thrown out the last couple of days. And in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about the WBC convention. Now, if you haven't seen it already, I just put out a video with Terrence Crawford and him being stripped by the WBC at 168. Check that video out. Also have breakdowns for this weekend's PBC card event. Also talked a little bit about Shakur Stevenson and Teofimo Lopez. So all of those videos are out. Been pumping out a lot of content this week, so check out all of that. And please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. All right, hit the thumbs up and share the video if you could. Let's talk about this WBC convention. There's a lot of fights that's been announced, mandatories, eliminators, and all that throughout each division. And I'm going to talk mainly on a few, but I'm going to keep it short because I actually want to talk about this more on a live video where I can get people to engage because some of these fights are really good. A few of these are really, really big fight announcements, but these are not fights that are scheduled, but these are the eliminators. We don't know if these fights are really going to go down because they all can refuse to take some of these fights. Especially if there's better opportunities. And some of these fighters are probably ranked in multiple sanctioning bodies. All right, but this was just concerning the WBC. So they ordered Moses Itauma to fight Lawrence Okolie. Now, when it comes to the WBC, Usyk is still the champion, right? He's still the champion, and I believe that Ajay Kabayel is the interim champion. Okay, so he's basically should be getting his opportunity to fight Usyk. So if Usyk were to vacate, that means that Kabayel will be elevated to full champion. But the number one fighter in the WBC right now at heavyweight is Lawrence Okolie. Okay. And Moses is actually scheduled to fight Jermaine Franklin, excuse me, this month. Speaking on that, Jermaine Franklin, he had a fight recently. I think it was on the undercard of Crawford and Canelo. All right. Against Disco, I believe his name. I didn't know that his father had passed away like a little bit prior to that fight. I didn't know. I found out today on social media. I saw an interview he did, and they were talking about that, and that really justified the performance, because it was times where I'm like, yo, let his hands. So we was watching it live, and I was just going off about how he wasn't fighting like his normal self. I did not know his father had passed away, and if I did, I might have forgotten, but I don't think I knew that. So the way he was fighting wasn't really engaged in the fight. Didn't seem like he was really listening to his corner. He seemed out of it, and I blamed it on maybe he was just out of shape. But he now that I'm thinking about it, and I don't have to go back to watch it. I can tell that that was the same man that fought Dillian White or Anthony Joshua. All right, but Moses is fighting him soon, and I'm sure he's going to be a lot more motivated. I'm sure he's going to be in better shape. And to me, I think that should be a good shot, like matchup for Moses. But Lawrence Okolie is even more. You can make an argument that it might be even more difficult than Jermaine Franklin, because Okolie has a style that a lot of people don't like. I see all the complaints about him about the tying up, but it's very effective. Not much of an inside fighter, but he's huge. He has power. He has speed, and he's a rangy fighter. And if you can't get past that jab and that 1-2, all right, if you can't get to him, you're gonna have a rough night. Might even be knocked out. So that's a very difficult fight for Moses Itauma. Those guys know each other well, sparred together. Lawrence Okolie has praised Moses, but now they actually have to fight. So we'll see how that goes. All right. But good announcement. The second one, Ben Whittaker. I was just talking about him because he just got a big win over the weekend. Well, not a big win, but it was his debut with Matchroom. He just won by first round stoppage domination. A lot of people calling it knockout of the year. I think it's definitely one of the better knockouts of the year for sure. But he's going to be, he got ordered by the WBC to fight Buatsi in a title eliminator. Now I don't know if this is a final eliminator. I don't know how this works, but it's crazy. We was just talking about Buatsi and Ben Whitaker potentially fighting him. But what I said is, maybe a Craig Richards or Dan Aziz who both lost to what's this guy's name? Buatsi. And those two are actually fighting each other, Craig Richards and Dan Aziz. And I said maybe Ben Whitaker should fight the winner of that. Because maybe, Buatsi, who didn't look good against Zach Parker in his last fight, maybe that's a little too far of a step up. I'm not saying that Ben can't win, but, you know, that's a big jump because Boatsi has been a top contender for some time. He's there with Callum Smith, who he just recently lost to as well. So I didn't figure they'd make that jump, but I guess they're so confident in Ben Whitaker, and plus Boatsi looked terrible in his last fight against Zach Parker. Maybe they figure, you know what? Let's make the jump now to Boatsi. And if he is to beat Boatsi, he's definitely going to be a top contender. He'll definitely be in a nice pace to fight for a title soon, depending on what these champions do. David Benavidez out of the picture for now, going up to cruiserweight to fight Zerto Ramirez, and then I'm expecting a trilogy fight from Bivol and Beterbiev at some point, right? So we got to wait to see how all that goes down. But this is a good fight. It's a good fight, and it's a good. It's more like it's a similar position with Moses and Jermaine Franklin or Lawrence Okolie. Like yeah, Buatsi hasn't looked good recently. He did lose this year, and then have a rough fight with Zach Parker. But if he is to win this fight, it puts him right back on the map. You know what I mean? Right away. Gets him right back in there. If he is to beat a Ben Whitaker. You know what I mean? But Ben beats him, Ben automatically becomes a top contender. All right. Um, and then at 168, right beneath them, you get Christian Mbilli against Hamza Sheeraz. Okay. Christian is coming off that draw against Lester Martinez that was on the undercard of Crawford and Canelo. Was one of the better fights. It was one of the better fights of the year, which I actually made a lot of money on that because I called the draw. Um, but yeah, he Christian Mbilli is now and Hamza Shiraz, who just beat Edgar Berlanga here in New York. That was crazy. But good fight, very good fight. And I guess this is now going to be for the WBC title because Crawford just got stripped from his title. So this is an actual title shot. This is not an eliminator. This is for the WBC champ. And this is the thing, man. I definitely think Mbilli deserves a title shot for sure. Hamza just got there. Not really, even though he knocked out Edgar Berlanga and it was a good win. I know he got a name. I know he's backed by Turkey. I know he has potential to be a star. Not taking anything away from the dude. But there's so many guys at 168 that I feel like just been there. And, when I look at the rankings and, I'm thinking of just all these guys at the, let me just go over to 168 real quick, right? Because Crawford is not going to be fighting there anymore, you know? But, Canelo and Crawford rematch. Let's just get them out of the picture, right? You got Hamza who just got there, right? Good win, though, against Berlanga, right? Who's been at 168 for a minute. Good win, right? Stopped him. You got Jamal Charlo, who I don't feel like, and I got to talk about that and Caleb Plant because they might be fighting soon, right? But you got also these Iglesias, who I think is just been overlooked, man. He's just flying off the radar right now. I mean, he's clearly one of the best guys, top 5, top 3 maybe, at 168 right now. No one brings him up because he doesn't have the name like that. Cuban fighter, undefeated, puncher, southpaw, problem for anybody at 168. Think he might give the smoke to anyone at 168. You know, and Billy, like again, he deserves it, but what's going on with these rankings. You know, Jaime Magia is still around. Diego Pacheco. He's a guy that I think they need to move him a little slowly. You know what I mean? I just don't think he's that good yet. Um, but you know, you got other guys there that I think is a little bit more deserving. Um, but not a bad fight. I think Iglesias definitely is the most deserving with Mbilli over Hamza. But this is a good fight, and I think Hamza is close just because of the Malanga win. All right. So those are the three really good fights. I can't complain about those fights. Now, Carlos Adames against Miram Nursatonov. Nursatonov. I looked up this guy, and I'm like, you know, and this is down at 160. You know, Carlos Adames been complaining about him not willing to unify. You over there, PPC. You should have fought Lara by now. Janovic just popped, so he's out of the picture for now. Lara is gonna move on and fight someone else. This guy Miram, he's a Kazakh fighter. Um, has not fought in 2 years. He's not fought since 2023. And he has not fought anyone relevant. Yeah, he's undefeated, but I don't know why this is being ordered. You know, it's one thing to try to get Carlos to get back in the ring with someone, but I mean, why is this fight being ordered? Like, why? Why is this fighter being ordered? And he hasn't fought in 2 years, and he has not fought anyone that's relevant. This is what I mean, and I talk a lot about this in the Crawford video where he was stripped. WBC, where do you come up with your rankings, bro? Like, what? How do you get to this point and say this is a guy you're being ordered to fight? Do better with the rankings, and people would respect the sanctioning bodies a little bit more. All right. Um, you know, we already know Conor Ben is number one for Ryan Garcia and Mario Barrios. I already ranted about that a couple times, but it is what it is. Alberto Puello is now the mandatory for the winner of Sabrio Matias and Dalton Smith, which is going on. There was a little scare because Matias popped on Osterin, but they said the levels are way too low to strip him or penalize him. All right, so that fight is still going down. I believe that fight is in January. And that's a very good fight. I like the fight with Dalton Smith. And I believe that the Puello Matias fight, which was earlier this year, right? I think that fight definitely deserves a rematch. You know, Puello lost, and I don't think he's fought since then. But that fight was just like, it could have gone either way. You know, I actually think it should have just been a draw. I was hoping it was a draw. You know, I don't think anyone really clearly won that fight. So I'm not mad at Puello getting another opportunity. You know, we see that sometimes where these fighters they're coming off of a loss, but it was like a fight that could have gone either way. They'll immediately make them the man though for a rematch. You know, they'll order it. So, and then at the end of it, we got Juan Francisco Estrada. He's going to be going up to fight Tenshin Nasukawa, and Tenshin lost to Tacoma Inoue. And I didn't actually watch that fight, but that he lost that fight in his last fight. Estrada is going to be moving up to 118. He actually had a fight since his loss to Bam at 118, so I guess he's campaigning up there now, which is cool because there's not much going on at 118 right now. You know what I mean? But I don't think it's you got threat. You have big threat with Bam at 122, who El Gallo already lost to. You have him down at 115. And at 122, Nakatani's moved up. And Nue's already up there. 118, good fighters, but nothing that is like threatening at this point. I think Francisco Estrada might have a good shot up there. And, Tenshin is a good fighter, so not a bad fight. It's ordered as a bantamweight eliminator for the WBC. All right. So anyway, that is it, man. We'll talk more about this on a live at some point. I want to get your opinions. I'm going to read your comments. Please subscribe to the channel. Hit the thumbs up on your way out. And I'll see you guys. Y'all have a good day. Peace.